No, they just know what topics to do.
I also find that you all clear a lot more than other judges do. Don't view that as like 100%.
Okay. So we're all good now, right? Yeah? I affirm, according to Wise, animal rights refer to moral or legal entitlements attributed to non-human animals. This definition captures interpretations of most authors by not arbitrarily excluding arguments, thus divides ground fairly. So Ponsis clarifies which animals should be considered. P has an interest in X if X affects his feelings of well-being, such as pain. Throughout animal rights literature, animal refers to only non-human beings with an interest, which is more limited than the biological understanding. For further definition, we can make the claim about animal rights literature as a whole, so it's more likely to interpret animal rights as terms actually used by experts. It also contextualizes the animal rights in normative terms by referencing well-being, so it's has a more direct link to the resolution. And it is not sufficient for the negative to prove that some animals should not have rights. Animal rights and entitlements owed to animals, which is a countdown, not a mass noun, because they can be modified by numerals and definite articles. So in its plural form, animal simply means more than one animal. If justice requires the rights of any animals, you would affirm. Similarity does exist, but we are incorrect in our conclusions of similarity. We would doing a grave injustice to animals by not extending rights, whereas if similarity doesn't exist and rights are incorrectly extended, we merely give rights to beings that cannot recognize and use them, so there's no harm to justice. The risk of possible injustice in the face of action that is justice neutral means that we should err on the side of avoiding injustice, so negative distinctions must show a harm or opportunity cost to giving animals rights. Next. The neg must prove the converse of the resolution, otherwise it gives the neg a 2-to-1 advantage in generating offense. They can make distinction-based or skeptical arguments as well as obligation-based arguments, whereas I could win that we not just deny our rights to animals, but we also be obligated not to. Reciprocity is key to fairness because it gives both fairness equal chances to access the ballot. Values justice defined as giving each a due. Nash explains the connection between justice and rights. The duties of justice arise when they still demands moral agents on behalf of agreed parties, and justice, the reason for moral action, is not the supplier but the recipient. They're mandatory, not discretionary. Duties arise from rights, rights are the moral stimulus, and duties are the moral response. Rights, then, are just an entitlement created by a moral duty for people to act in a particular way. Duties and rights depend on each other. It's nonsensical to say there's a right without a corresponding duty to enforce that right, or a duty that responds to no moral demand. Rights and duties describe the same phenomenon of doing what's right from the point of view of two different parties, the agent and the subject. However, there is a difference between a moral agent and a moral subject. In order to possess rights, an actor must be a moral subject, a being that is capable of treated rightly or wrongly. Taylor writes. Moral agents should treat others rightly or wrongly. Moral subjects can be treated rightly or wrongly. All moral agents are moral subjects, but not all moral subjects are moral agents. All moral subjects lack the capacities of moral agents, but being an entity to which moral agents have duties. For example, we have duties not to harm the insane. It must be possible for a moral subject condition to be made better or worse by agent. For being nonsensical to say that a moral agent has a duty towards something that cannot be treated well or poorly. The concepts of right and wrong, although distinct from good and bad, are inextricably linked to them. It's impossible to construct rules of right conduct without understanding of the good. Lewis writes. There must be a connection between the right and the good. No act can be called right if nothing but bad can be expected from it. We can't say that an act is right without implying the consequences of right to bring about. The right is attributed to the act which brings them about, not the consequences. For example, if we give directions by saying Cedar Street is right for you to take, we do not predicate any rightness of Cedar Street. The rightness is the act of taking it. There must be some character of consequences of action of which the commitment to bring them about will be right or wrong. Only so can the doer find out what action will be right for him to take. The distinction between property is the goodness or the badness. It cannot be the rightness, since results of action cannot be right or wrong. They are good or bad, independent of the commitment to bring them about. Therefore, to act rightly towards the subject is to act in a way that consequences of your action be expected to conform to what is good. To be clear, this is the case regardless of any specific ethical theory that is adopted and doesn't specifically refer to states of affairs. For example, Kant argues that right actions of those have a good will. The good will is what determines rightness. The implication is that in order to be a moral subject, an actor must simply be capable of experiencing goodness or badness, because that determines right or wrong action on the part of the moral agent. Also, to say that something is good must be to say there's practical reasons to take an action. Any other kind of goodness leaves the question of the content open to a self-referential, unanswerable question. Lake and Booker write. Judging about whether A express practical conclusions about reason to care about A. Once we judge that A is good, we have reason to care about A. In contrast, to say otherwise, we require that we call a judge that have reason to care about A is to make a farther judgment above the judgment that is good. To judge that something is good is to have a directed attitude towards that thing, because judgments about goodness are practical judgments, and practicality is motivational. So judgments about what we have reason to do is to be understood motivationally. So if we have reason to respond in a positive way towards something, would be involved having a positive attitude towards that thing. But then the question is, something that has properties that provide reason to care about a good would not be motivationally open. This card explains that since morality tells us what to do, it is motivational. Since goodness informs what is reason for action, then that means goodness must also be motivational, since otherwise we wouldn't have reason for doing what is right. Therefore, if something provides motivational reason to care about it, then it is good. Pain provides an undeniable motivational reason to avoid certain activities that cause pain. Nagel writes. Pain is sensory experience to which we feel involuntary aversion. Almost everyone takes the avoidance of pain as a reason for action. We can ask why there's no plausibility in the position that pain has no value. I have a reason to refrain from putting my hand on a hot stove. It seems meaningless to deny this without some reason to think there's anything bad in my experience you intensely dislike. You can't regard the impression to the contrary as illusion. Such things are bad if anything is. We can't from an objective standpoint withhold endorsement of the most direct, subjective value judgments concerning our own consciousness. So if I have a reason to avoid hot stoves, it's not because of something about those pains, but because they are pain. Pain then is an example of badness and avoidance of pain goodness. So if pain is bad, then acting rightly involves understanding that pain is connected to the well-being of those who experience it. Therefore, agents that are capable of experiencing pain are moral subjects. However, while we are able to say that certain properties such as pain are universally bad, the things that bring about those experiences can differ. Therefore, it's nonsensical to say there's only one right way to live. Instead, the only plausible ethical theory is one based on rights. Mackey writes. People differ radically about the kinds of life they choose to pursue and cannot make a choice of total plan of life. Morality is the source of constraints and conduct. It cannot be based on comparative evaluations. We set out to formulate a goal-based moral theory, but there are indefinitely many goals. Our theory will change into a rights-based one. Any goal-based theory collapses into one based on rights because there's an infinite number of choices that moral subjects face and possible decisions that they can make. Therefore, it can't be exhaustive in terms of the specific details, but must instead include general prohibitions for practical purposes of actually prohibiting conduct. Thus, the affirmative burden to show that animals are sentient. First, behavioral and physiological evidence prove that animals experience pain. There's an overwhelming scientific consensus. Singer writes, first, pain can never be observed, but we can infer that others are feeling from external indication. The signs apply pain can be seen in other species, including breathing, facial contortions, and so on. Second, animals have nervous system respond like ours, and the animals in circumstances we would feel pain like that. Other people's perspiration. Third, evolution and history do not diverge on the nervous system where it exists in the capacity to feel pain enhances survival since the cause of the species. To avoid injury, it is unreasonable to suppose that systems are virtually identical, operate in different manner. The one majority of scientists agree, factual evidence supports that mammals experience pain sensations at least as acute as our own. Second, the presence of pain-inhibiting hormones in all animals suggests that all animals are capable of experiencing pain. Roland writes, earthlings possess endorphins similar to morphine to mask pain. To the presence of these invertebrates suggests that creatures feel pain. Consciousness pervades the entire evolutionary ladder. Even flatworms possess a mind. Dr. Best, another type of form of experience suggesting animals capable of experiencing pain. And famed entomologist Wigglesworth has argued that insects experience pain. Third, controlled behavioral studies have confirmed that when injured, our animals are experiencing painful sensations. Weird, all right. The human experience pain can be mitigated by redirecting patient's attention. If a chicken's reaction to harm was unconscious, then shifting the bird's attention could not influence the response. If the chicken felt pain, bird's attention as unpleasant, that redirecting the bird's attention might reduce the pain. Chickens that received injection change behavior consistent with mild pain. Birds would avoid putting weight on a leg. However, these changes were limited by placing the bird into a pen with an unfamiliar chicken to distract the bird because the bird's reaction was modified. By shifting attention, the reaction must have been awareness of the pain. Yeah, you mind if we jump it so I can get it too? I do have a question. Alright, it's called wrong stuff. Program jumps, so click on that. And it's the first one. Cool.
Let's talk about Nash. Nash says that any sort of right would generate a duty, right?
Any sort of duty would generate a right.
Okay, Nash says that duties of justice arise because we have some sort of external demands on moral agents, right?
Yeah.
So that says that when we make a demand of somebody, or somebody has a right, then that means that we have a duty to them, right?
Sure, we have a duty to them. But the argument in Nash is that, assume that we have duties to justice, the form that those duties would take the form of rights, because rights describe acting on behalf of the supplier.
I understand that
and
Nash says that we have duties that come from our, when we make demands of others. I'm asking what the converse of that, where that work is in the card.
Right, that's what the card says. It says, this is what rights are. Rights are those that describe moral action on behalf of the recipient and the supplier. So when we have duties to justice, in terms of rights, it would take the form of rights.
Okay, that's fine. Let's talk about your for defending the converse. What do you define as defending the converse of the resolution?
That it would be unjust to recognize the rights of others.
Okay, let's talk about Nagel. So Nagel says that we have pain is like a reason for us to like avoid, like we have a reason to avoid pain, right?
Right.
So why is that pain? Like, why do I care about like avoiding other people's pain? Like, why do I care about you avoiding your pain?
Oh, the argument is not that. In order to be, we have to be motivated to care about other people's pain. It's that the arguments that would count for determining a moral theory are those that are motivational. So if you care about pain, and other people also care about pain, then from that we derive the moral principle that pain is universally bad. That's something that is considered, avoidance of pain would be considered goodness, and per the Lewis analysis, that links back to value.
Okay, so Lewis just establishes that we have to look to good or bad in terms of something that is grounded in the empirical world, something from physical experience, right?
No. Lewis's argument is a little bit different. It says that in terms of justice, we determine what is the right or wrong course of action, but before determining what is right or wrong, we have to determine what is good. And
So how do we determine what that good is? It's based on the function of an agent?
the AC makes the argument that that goodness is the avoidance of pain.
Okay, so that means that basically